All right, well, welcome everyone. And this was kind of a last minute call, so I'm really glad to see so many of you here today on the post-eclipse self-care, soul care, and just to kind of reflect and see what you were experiencing, what I was experiencing during this eclipse season. And the eclipse season really begins about 2 weeks before the lunar eclipse, and then it will last at least 2 more weeks. But this next 2 more weeks of kind of coming back down from this experience from the lunar and the solar eclipses, so there are two. Really, it's important that you take some time to do some deep reflection, maybe integration, and other things that we'll talk about today. Okay. And I just wanted to kind of maybe share my experience, but also eclipses in general too. And I said in my email too, but I really, really had a hard time. Like I had so many things I had written down. I was going to get on and I was going to record myself, and I just couldn't do it. I just could not make myself sit in front of the camera and record. So I apologize that you did not see any YouTube videos during the lunar eclipse. I just really went underground, really deep dive into my subconscious, even unconscious patterns, and it was fascinating. Let's call it that. It was a journey, but I'm glad that I was prepared for that journey because I've been preparing myself for so long. So, but let's do kind of think about eclipses, okay? Eclipses are always tough on our body, mind, and spirit. Always. I don't think there's really such eclipse seasons that's like super easy, breezy, nothing changed. It's wonderful. It's just like any old sunny days, it's never like that because the eclipse itself is a sudden change of the natural rhythm, right? So you're going into the natural lunar cycles, let's say, and you're in this full moon, and then all of a sudden you have this new moon energy. So when you think about the month of basically September, we've had multiple kind of this waning and new moon and a dark moon period. For the last 2 weeks, it's been nothing but the waning and the dark moon and the new moon energy. So this month, we really didn't experience the full moon energy. Okay, so I just want you to know that it was very unusual for our system. And these sudden changes that we experience cosmically kind of shocks our system. And body, our physiology and our biology, we're not equipped to really shift that quickly. It takes thousands, millions of years for our physiology to change. And so our bodies really go into this almost like shock, but in the liminal space. It doesn't know what to do. Okay. So if you felt some of that, that's quite in tuned. Okay. If you felt the uncertainties and unpredictability and the shifts and the natural rhythm being suddenly changed, and you're like, okay, I don't know what is happening to me. You know what? Welcome to this crazy world, but also you're in tuned. And if you didn't feel it, then I probably would question your maybe liver. Maybe your liver is congested. Maybe your kidneys are congested and you can't really sense things. So, if you really did go through some of the challenges in the past, especially the 2 weeks, the sandwich between the lunar and the solar, today was the solar, then you're in the right place and you are very much a part of this cosmic flow. Okay. And the eclipses, and let's just call it a one eclipse. Okay. So lunar or solar, it is basically a wild card. So in a card game, a wild card is something that shift the outcome, right? You can kind of like completely shift the game. That's kind of what's been going on for the last 2 weeks. So if you pause and think about not just in your life, but globally, politically, your country, your neighborhood, your state, a lot of things have actually shifted. And you can really list a lot of these things too. And the eclipse is kind of a game changer, right? And if you look up the word a wild card in Google, which I did because I was just like curious about, okay, if I'm going to call the eclipse a wild card, what does that mean in life? So in life, a wild card refers to an unpredictable person, event, or factor that introduces uncertainty and can significantly alter the outcome of a situation. And you could probably come up with a couple of things in your life, but in your country, maybe globally as well, and actually quite a bit. It wasn't just the one thing. There are multiple usage of this wild card that happened during this 2 weeks, especially. So, I'd love for you to just kind of pause and think about, okay, what wild cards did you witness or experience during this 2 weeks? So I want you to just kind of spend a few deep breaths, slow breaths right now and say, and they're not always negative, everyone. Okay. We always tend to go to the negativity, but it's like maybe you had this wild card that completely changed the way you think or you believed. Okay. Maybe even the financial world. Maybe it's in the system of where you live that you thought that this was secure and then all of a sudden this isn't secure. That means that I need to step into something different. And that could be a positive outcome. Okay. We don't know. So I would love to know what your wild cards were. Maybe it was just one, but maybe you had multiple. So if you have some of those thoughts, do put it on the chat because I would love to read them. Okay. And as I move forward, okay, I'll just keep going with it. But if you think of it, just write them down. You could write them down on your note or just put it on the chat. Okay. And this particular eclipse this September was really, really turbocharged. Okay, it was intense and impactful. I mean, this is something that you've been hearing. It's intense. We went from the dragon year last year to the snake year, which is just more of an earthly expression of the dragon, right? Because the snake is basically the little dragon. So we're experiencing a lot of ups and downs. And you have to remember the snakes are not just a creature that just crawls around on the ground, right? Snakes can actually climb up the walls, they can climb up the trees, they can access all kinds of places. They can go into little holes, they can go under the house. I mean, they're very resourceful, okay? So that's what we're all experiencing this year. And then having this eclipse season we just went through really turbocharged the zigging and zagging of this year. And so, you can kind of feel some of that changes like a whiplash that you're experiencing, okay? But this was very impactful. Okay, this eclipse this season really shifted the course of our collective lives, and I don't think we can turn the ship to directing at maybe a different course that easily. Okay, I just have to be kind of honest with you. I think we've took a very different course collectively, individually, and wishing for that vessel that we're all on to course correct is going to really strangle you. It's going to cause even more pain in you. That doesn't mean we can't do something if you want to course correct, or if you want to change the course of whatever your life is or wherever you are. I'm not saying not to do it, but the force is a little bit strong right now, stronger than ever. So I don't want you to kind of get tired out, squeezed out of all your prana and energy trying to fight that. Okay. It is zigging, zagging. That means if we're zigging right now, we are going to zag. Okay. But that zag may not happen exactly when you want it. Okay. So it's okay to be realistic. And I think that's what this eclipse season really taught us. It kind of like shoved our faces to what and really see the truth of what's happening. Okay. So, Chris, are there any chats? Yeah. Could you,
Yeah,
if
so
you see
Ina
something, just
said
let
that,
me know.
yeah, Ina said, my sister had 3 gallbladder and liver procedures over the last 8 days. Lots of uncertainty.
Yeah. So, this is a tough topic, but it's like instead of lamenting oh no, it's like we could have prevented it, that maybe the surgery didn't need to happen, or we really got to focus on, okay, surgery's happened, so what now? What can we do now? What can I do now? What can I do to begin to support my own being? okay, and loved ones and the neighbors and so on and so forth, and you can expand. But really start here. So yeah, this was challenging. Okay, so that's one. But we all had the chance actually to go deeper within ourselves, within our own constructs of beliefs and patterns. And it was the time for introspection, which I've mentioned a lot in my email. And it was really, really going underground for me. It was a great chance to reflect. It's like I didn't ask for it, but the universe is like, are you going to sit down? Are you going to sit down and reflect on your life, your patterns, your choices? And so it was a gift for almost, I mean, for all of us. But I can't say that everybody is ready or they can feel it or they want to. You can refuse these invitations. You know, it's your right to refuse these invitations to go deeper. So, you know, I don't force that upon anyone. If you're feeling it, you want to talk about it, you reach out to me. I will reflect back and we can discuss it, but it's not something that I will knock on neighbor's door and say, "Did you go deeper? You know, did you have time for introspection? And can we discuss it?" Like, I'm not going to do that. Okay. And because it's a very personal journey that we're on right now. Yet collectively we're going through it also. So there's a lot of mirroring that's going on. And this was a chance for you to look at and contemplate and examine your old patterns and unhealed wounds that you feel like, oh my gosh, how many times do I have to do this? Well, one more time, I guess. So, and you know, in a way, it just seems like a never ending, seems like a new wound's coming. And you say, wow, this pattern reminds me of when I was blah, blah, blah. Okay. So this was a great chance for you to really explore who you are this past 2 weeks, especially. And this will continue for next 2 weeks. Maybe not at the same potency though. Well, not maybe actually. I can clearly say that it's not going to be as potent as this past 2 weeks. Okay. And I can viscerally feel the difference when the solar eclipse happened and ended. I looked at Chris and I said, whew, did you feel that? I said, can you feel the end? It was liberating for me to know that, okay, the 2 weeks of the intensity is officially finished. And now I am slowly coming out of it, coming up for air, and I get to see the room and say, okay, what got messed up? You know, what boxes got turned up and turned upside down? What do I need to collect? What do I need to discard? So this is really when the real work begins. But you know, I think the most people are like, okay, solar eclipse is done. Okay, moving on. What's the next thing? What's the next predictions? But no, this picking up the pieces and really slowing everything down to reflect for the next 2 weeks will absolutely change the course of your life. And I wish we could all do that collectively because then it can change the course of all of us. But you start with you, okay? And during this 2 weeks, it made you explore and engage with rather than ignore or pretend. So you got to engage with yin energy, so that the darkness, it's the shadow side, and it's the side that I cherish often, right? Because I love the yin energy so much that it was actually, I enjoyed it, even though it was at times so deep, I didn't know where the bottom was. And I'm not quite sure I touched the bottom of that yin energy, to be honest with you, within myself. And you got to explore the hidden places. And often, John O'Donohue actually he used to call this the haunted room. So you got to explore and engage with your own haunted room. And he wrote in one of his passages, he said, I often think that there is in every life some haunted room that you never want to go into. And he also, so I feel like I went into the haunted room, you know, and it's not even Halloween, and I was already in there in my own room. But he says that you can only access this room through imagination, and I would even add intuition. And he says, not will or the mind. So these past 2 weeks, you couldn't will yourself out of the situation. You could not think hard enough to get yourself out. This was really challenging you to think outside the box. these past 2 weeks. You really had to do it. And, since Chris and I love John O'Donohue, and bless his heart, he's still watching us and blessing us from the other side of the veil. But let me read one more passage from his writing. He says, "The world rests in the night. Trees, mountains, fields, and faces are released from the prison of shape and the burden of exposure. Each thing creeps back into its own nature within the shelter of the dark. Darkness is the ancient womb. Nighttime is womb time. Our souls come out to play." And I'm going to read that again because I really want you to feel into the last 2 weeks. Like I said, the month of September was mostly the waning moon cycles, and we really didn't have a full moon. We had new moon, and we end it with a new moon today. So we were in the darkness quite a bit. So I'm going to read his writing here again by John O'Donohue. "The world rests in the night. Trees, mountains, fields, and faces are released from the prison of shape and the burden of exposure. Each thing creeps back into its own nature within the shelter of the dark. Darkness is the ancient womb. Nighttime is womb time. Our souls come out to play." Okay, so I hope your soul came out to play. And when I read that, I've read that passage before many times. I shared this with Chris before, but it reminds me of me growing up in Japan, and I loved riding my bicycle in the dark. I loved it. That was one of my favorite things to do. It's because that was the only time that my face wasn't exposed to the rest of Japanese culture. So no one pointed their fingers at me and called me names. So I could just slip into the darkness, into the night, and rest in who I am. Rest in my own inner shine, you know? And so it's almost like that. That's what I think a lot of us in the darkness, it's always scary. Fear can creep back up. But in that, you don't have to pretend. And so that's what ended up happening to me in the last 2 weeks is like, I don't have to pretend. I don't have to continue to show up. Like I can actually retreat and then do nothing except to be in my own illuminating light. So that's what I was able to do, and that was the gift. And it's not always easy for everyone because some of us are not trained to sit there in that darkness, to really fully play with your soul. So that's one of the things that I wanted to say about what we experienced for the last 2 weeks. If you didn't have the words to describe it, I hope that this is helping you describe what these past 2 weeks were. It wasn't all hell, but it was also very different. And for many of us, it's a kind of a unique, or maybe not even unique because many of us have been there. But it was like oh, I had forgotten about that, kind of a place, right? And we got to really explore and engage with our subconscious mind. And it's the autopilot of our life, right? It's what's running the game. It's what's running this world, really. We're being driven and run by the subconsciousness right now. And we're on some kind of autopilot, right? And the subconscious mind is this vast, largely inaccessible reservoir of memories and beliefs and patterns and emotions that operate automatically. You can even call it maybe 95% of who we are is hidden beneath that ocean. It's the iceberg, right? Maybe a little less for some of us that have been doing quite a bit of subconscious and unconscious level of work to bring that back up. But definitely that you had the chance to explore that part of you. in the past 2 weeks, especially. And, it's like your subconscious mind is like your hard drive, right? It's what's running behind what you see on your screen and the computers. It's where you store everything from your past experiences and learned behaviors. And it's really rare to be given this chance, the gift to explore this level of depth of who we are, who you are. So if you weren't so engaged in it in the last 2 weeks, I recommend the next following 2 weeks, this post-eclipse period, for you to really sink into it. Okay. Really sit in it, like soaking into this gorgeous bathtub. Okay. And then really sink in, settle in, and get your body really warmed by that sense of you exploring your own subconscious reservoir. Okay. And the last eclipse that we had in March and this year wasn't as intense, but it did prepare us for this zigging, zagging that we were going to go through. But I would say that this one in September was absolutely all about you getting comfortable with your uncomfortable subconscious patterns in mind. Okay. And, true to its name in the character, right? The snake ear hasn't, um, I don't know, disappointed us, I guess. It's really snake ear's truthful to what its own character is. And so just know that's what you're doing. Okay, that's what you're doing. And sometimes it's not just a little garden snake, right? We're talking about giant snakes sometimes. We don't know what swallowed you whole, okay, and what spit you whole. And that's what we got a little glimpses of that maybe mentally, physically, emotionally, spiritually, intuitively in the past 2 weeks. Okay. And what I can say in the past 2 weeks, and I'll pass it to Chris, maybe, he may have some things that he wants to share. But I absolutely stopped eclipsing. During the eclipses in that past 2 weeks, I stopped eclipsing. And as many of you know, in psychology and psychological context, I stopped eclipsing means you have stopped suppressing your own identity, right? Your interests and your own needs to mirror or please others. And, I have such a strong mirror neurons. This is why sometimes I say, hey, could you turn on your camera? Because I cannot speak to the darkness. It's because I am a very reflective, I need the mirror neurons, right? So, what I was able to do though during this time in this 2 weeks was to kind of a dim that mirror neuron a little bit, actually, so that I am not trying to please my friends or colleagues or my husband, and is he happy? If I do this, is he going to be happy? And yesterday I caught myself thinking, or the yesterday and the day before too, Chris was talking about, hey, can we bake something? Can we make some like gluten-free cakes and things like that? And then honestly, we took out all the ingredients and we were ready to go. And I just couldn't do it. I just was like, I am not interested in doing any of this stuff right now. And it was so funny because it was about an hour after the solar eclipse. I just looked at Chris and said, let's bake it. Let's bake our cake. And we did. We just whipped it up and we made our beautiful cake that we're going to have after this call. So, just the shift is amazing when you're so in tune and connected to that. And, I have this, like I said, the mirror neuron, but during this 2 weeks, I felt like I was gifted with the dimming of that mirror neurons, which I needed so that I'm not picking up on everything and reflecting and adjusting and people pleasing and answering and all these things. I just couldn't physically, mentally, but I gave myself the permission to just say, no more. I don't need to do that. Okay. And, so this is the gift that I hope you were able to experience during this time that you can say, I stopped eclipsing. I stopped creating dimming effects on my inner light, right? Um, so it really signaled a important personal milestone. This September eclipse season was probably one of the most potent ones that I experienced. And it was interesting because if you live in the United States or most of the European countries too, we couldn't see them, right? This was happening in mostly Asia and I believe parts of Africa too, you could see them. But in the United States, we didn't see this, but when you don't see the eclipses, it will work on the eclipses inside. It goes so much deeper. So it's so much more powerful when you can't actually see it. That's when you shouldn't be ignoring it. Okay. That's when I think most of us that just looking for more of an entertainment purposes will say, oh, it's not, I can't see it anyway. And you just kind of move on. But that's when eclipses are happening within you. Yeah. And this was the time that you decided truly what it is to be this authentic self. Yeah, authentic self has been talked about a lot, but it deserves revisiting. And I encourage you to do that for the next 2 weeks. And rather than overshadowing your personality for the sake of the relationship or social situations or what feels socially acceptable, you know, this next 2 weeks, I would love for you to say, I stopped eclipsing myself. Okay. This was a very important time to break that cycle and embracing the authenticity of who you are and standing in the place of your own power and shedding your old patterns again. Of course, it's a snake year. We're just constantly shedding. But I think sometimes we shed too much, and I think eclipses can accelerate the shedding, and it feels a little raw. It does feel a little raw, I have to say. So take the next 2 weeks to heal the raw skin. You might have shed it too much. Okay. You might have accelerated too much. You might have been so called to do that, which is natural. Okay. Congratulate yourself that you are in tuned with the cosmic flow. That's why you did that. But take the next 2 weeks to slow it down, purposely slow it down, and heal the wounds. Okay. In Japan, we have this really interesting moon-based stories, but this one in particular, and I'm not going to go into details about the story, but there's this wounding of too much shedding that happens, and it takes time for this one particular animal. It's actually a rabbit that ended up shedding too much and became this raw skin, and it takes time for that rabbit to heal and under the moonlight. So for me, why next 2 weeks? It's because we will head towards the full moon. And that's the time you're going to have a full healing from it. Okay. So really embrace that what you have let go for the last 2 weeks and maybe even longer, pretty much this entire month, to be honest. And this next full moon is going to be truly kind of those like moments you say, I feel freer now. I feel a lot less of that pain in my heart. I can really take on the moonlight. That's when I would encourage all of you to moonbathe. Okay, go out there and expose your skin to the light of the moon on the full moon. This next full moon is going to be a very important healing moon. Okay, and this was really important for identifying your voice and your path forward. And you may not see it clearly. Okay, but you are starting to find your voice. I trust me, you are. And one of the things that I did during this eclipse season, this particular one, this September, I had a ticket to go to this one really big health, who's who of the functional nutritional therapy, functional medicine, all the, you name it, all the names that you can possibly think about, all the people that you have followed on the summits and talks and all these things, okay? They come together once a year, and I've been going to it for the last couple of years, but I just couldn't. I didn't want to. I didn't want to be in that place, and they're finishing up today. And I am so glad I did not go to that event. I am so glad that I said, nope, I paid that money. I had all the places reserved, but the universe helped me to cancel everything and without any fees. So that was great, but I just couldn't. My heart, my soul didn't want to go out to a, well-lit space with everybody trying to be the extroverts. And I just wanted to go under. I just couldn't. So I honored myself and didn't. And I am really, really glad, because if I did, who knows? You know, I could see myself coming home with picking up some kind of viral infection. Be sick again for the next 2 weeks. Okay. So I'm really, really glad I did not do that. Okay. So these were some of my experiences that I experienced. And I would love to read some comments, Chris. Maybe you have some things, and then I will go into a couple more things that I would love for you to maybe look into for the next 2 weeks for your post eclipse period.
I just had a couple of things to add to what you said that stirred up for me when you were talking about the eclipses as a wild card. That's one thing. And another one I wanted to say first though is that in all the things that you talk about with the moon being such an important thing to pay attention to and the cycles of light and dark and our movement of inward and outward and healing and sort of outer expression. And there's really this eclipse. What really struck me about it is it's a chance for us to really look at what is behind the reality of life. You know, it gives us it's like an acceleration of that moon cycle. So we get to look into that dynamic of change in a way that, you know, maybe we weren't looking for. It's unexpected. And that's that wild card quality to it. And so some of the things, I mean, I can look at what's happened for me in the last couple of weeks. Some real shakeups have happened around me in the last couple of weeks. You know, news being shared that shook up a whole community, for example, and you know, just dealing with the repercussions of that and what does that mean? But what I'm seeing is that the unexpected changes that are coming up for us are a shakeup. There's the wild card energy again. It's a shakeup that lets us move away from taking things for granted as always moving in this straight linear kind of way. Like it's supposed to do that. And instead, it reminds us that things are a lot more like this snake ear that you've described so many times, the zigging and zagging. And that's much more what life actually is like most of the time, if we're really paying attention. I mean, usually we're just trying to come back to the neutral, the average, the, you know, reverting to the mean, the sort of easy way that we're familiar with. But these little shakeups really show us so much more. It's a chance to really look up. And I love that quote from John O'Donohue because that one of the things that reminded me of is that idea, the image of the darkness, and really inhabiting the space of imagination. It allows us to go back, as he says in the quote that you shared, you know, to go back into the nature within. And so without shape, without expectation, without any kind of, you know, putting on a show for anyone else. And so it's really a kind of freedom when that unexpected darkness comes, especially, but or the dark moon or the new moon. But that darkness gives us access to a kind of freedom that allows us to be what we are. And I think that's something that really struck me in what you were saying.
Yeah, I love that freedom feeling.
Yeah.
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 Mhm.
So that's all I wanted to say there. And maybe we can just read a couple of the
Yeah,
comments
let's
that
let's
were
do. Let's do.
coming in.
We
Yeah.
can take turns. So Mary says, so this was the, what wild cards did you experience in the past 2 weeks, right? There's a part of me that wants so many different things to be done right now. It is realizing the priority now, even if it is tiny steps. Yeah.
Okay.
And just slow down, slow way down, everyone. This eclipse season, eclipse time, nothing really moves that much. Okay. It gets kind of a hidden. All the things you want to do, desires, wish you could do, wish you could express, they kind of get hidden. And that's okay because that's when you get very clear on what it is that you do desire because you might have desired so many things and you actually come out of it going, oh, I didn't actually desire all that. You get very clear. So in the darkness, you can get clearer. Okay. And Steve says, I have symptoms of cold or flu that is unlike any before and is still lingering. Can't shake it though. I'm feeling mostly okay. Well, I'm glad you're mostly okay. So that was a wild card for you.
And I think an interesting thing to look at with that is what comes up in that unexpected appearance of symptoms and maybe what did it push you to do differently? How did, you know, what did it create or cause you to look at from your different, you know, from your usual routine? I think that's one of the things that we can look at this time. I'll read Hiromi's.
Mhm.
She says, finally realized that making myself small is not the way to live. It reflects my body as chronic inflammation, it reflects in my body as chronic inflammation that slows my life down.
Right. Do you want to read Allison's?
Sure. I experienced my first perimenopause symptoms. Night sweats, hot flashes, headache, fatigue, all that fun stuff. Plus
Mm.
super emotional and irritable at the same time. It's been a journey that the last week. And then Claire said, so feeling the energy you're describing. The need for introspection was right there, front and center in my life. I could not ignore it, even if I wanted to.
Yeah, definitely, Claire. I'm glad that you could do that. And Allison, there are lots of help, right? So join my monthly supplement coaching call and reach out to me, set up a session. There's a lot you can do. And you want to start to help yourself now. So you're not waiting. Okay. Don't wait. Okay. And Sharon.
Sharon Marie said, I've been exploring the Blue Zone's community building elements. And what do I need to do as a retired single woman to feel belonging where I have lived for 22 years? I've been enjoying Amazon Prime's replay of the 2016-19 show Good Witch.
So that's your wild card that you've been enjoying that. Like you get to go inward and watch that. Nice. And well, Rupleka was is in New Zealand, so she saw the eclipse. Well, good. I know. I think next year we might be able to see some of it. So it's always good when you can see it too. You want
Okay.
to read the next one?
Yeah,
Yeah.
Parajita said, I had physical allergic reactions, which I believe to be releases, which heightened around the eclipse, and after that got much better.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. And then Stella said, I did not want to be around people. I wanted to stay home and drink tea, slow down, stop worrying, just being alone and present.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Okay. Parajita added to the last comment. I also had some deep intuitive hits, and one of my writings, which was supposed to be published in May but got delayed, was published during the eclipse window. So that's a good wild card there too. And Mary also added
Awesome.
to that, all I wanted to do was slow down and watch old Hallmark movies.
Hear you. Yeah. A lot of that kind of a going inward, and then it's okay to be kind to yourself is I think what we learned in the last 2 weeks. It's okay to take care of yourself. It's okay to put yourself first. Yeah. And I didn't want to bake the cake for Chris. He wanted it, but I didn't want to. And to be able to say, no, I don't, I'm not interested is it's really hard because I do like doing things for him, right? So, but it turned out to be just the right answer for me yesterday. And it's very, very different today. So you want to read the last one and I will go into some of the eclipse seasons, what we can do.
Okay, I have slowed down and have gone easy with surrender and self-compassion.
Yeah. Yeah. And, like I said, if you shed a little too much, okay, bring kindness back. You don't need to shed anymore right now. Take a break, okay? Zig and zag away from the shedding, okay? You can't constantly do the same kind of a pattern, okay? So really just take a little turn to the kindness zone. How do I take care of myself? How do I make myself a nice cup of tea that I can really get my senses involved? From the sounds to the smell to the colors to the holding and in giving that to your body. Just taste it, really be here. And one of the things that I would love for you to really focus on for the next 2 weeks is to be 100% here for you. Okay. It's really hard to do, but I'm going to actually have Chris look at the clock for about, let's do 1 minute. Let's do 1 minute of be here now, 100%. And this is not a mindfulness practice. This is not to get you out of your body. This is not zoning out. This is not about anything. We're not trying to accomplish anything. We're only just here 100% for you. Okay. Can you just be here for you 100%? And it helps actually to have one hand on the heart and one hand on the belly, like a second chakra, so a little bit lower than the belly button, right? So the second and the fourth chakra coming together. They love bridging each other. Did you know they love coming together? They're like the best sisters. They're almost like twins, but they are not identical twins. Okay. So they love hanging out together. So let's have them hang out together for 100% of the time. And Chris, go ahead and let us know when you want the 1 minute to start.
Okay. Why don't we all just exhale first?
Yeah,
Because we might be
thanks.
holding a little tension in our diaphragms. And then as you inhale, let's start the minute now.
100% here, everyone. 100%.
And believe it or not, that's a minute. So maybe we can finish the cycle with another exhale.
Yeah. You know, when's the last time we were 100% here for you, right? For your own being, just to be, not to accomplish anything, not to change anything, not to fix anything, just 100%. And my maybe recommendation is to grow that minute to at least a minute and a half. So 90 seconds of you being here for you. The reason for the 90 seconds is that it takes actually 90 seconds for our emotions and thoughts to actually calm down. So like if you have a glass of water and you put mud in there and you stirred it up, okay, and you let it sit on a counter, takes about a 90 seconds for that glass of water to settle. So it's the same thing. So see if you could grow your numbers to 90 seconds and you can set it on your phone so you could close your eyes. And when you start to drift away, come back to your hands. Come back to your hands. Okay, because your hands are tactile connection. That's going to bring you back to this body, to this moment. Okay. And you're not doing anything, you're not fixing anything. You're just hanging out with you. Okay. Hang out with you for 90 seconds. Because you're the best person to hang out with. Did you know that? You love hanging out with you. And you miss hanging out with you. Okay. You miss you. And she misses you. He misses you. Okay. So come home to that. Okay. And eclipse season will reverberate for the next 2 weeks. Okay. This one was pretty potent. So I think the rippling effects is gonna definitely take about 2 weeks. Sometimes it's like about 10 days and you'll start to kind of come out of it. But this one, give yourself at least till full moon to end that cycle. Okay. And you know, if you can spend that next 2 weeks really reflecting, integrating, and weaving the new insights and experiences into the fabric of who you are, then it will definitely help you finish up the snake year quite beautifully. Okay. But I think if we just go, okay, solar eclipse is done. That was a nice, great show. See ya, next one. Move on to the next thing. What's FOMO? What am I fear of missing out? Then you really lose out on this beautiful, it's a delicious time. This 2 weeks is so delicious. This past 2 weeks, challenging, yes. But this one, this is when you get to begin to taste what you've cooked, what you have created. You get to start to see and you get to start to touch. You get to begin to incorporate that into who you are. So don't miss out on this next 2 weeks and don't just move on. Okay. We do have a culture of just like cutting it. I'm done with it. Wash my hands with it or out. What is it? Wash my hands
Tons of it.
of it. Yeah. So just don't do that, everyone. Okay. It's almost like most of us live in this unconscious kind of a one Netflix show into the next. We've all binge watched. You know how Netflix and all these shows work, right? You finish the show and you don't even get to see the credits. The next show is coming up and there's that little timer that says in 10 seconds, the next one's going to come on. Would you like, they don't even ask you, would you like to continue watching? They'll just pop it up again. That's kind of how we live our lives, right? But what I want you to do is this show, the Netflix show ended, okay? Don't let that timer go to the next one right away. Stop it, pause it, turn it off, and sit back and spend some time with you, okay? And this is the time that you get to actually look back. So it's in retrospect or hindsight. You can really digest and process and appreciate this eclipse season. And it might have been hard, it might have been challenging. Maybe you were gifted with some shifts. For me, it was a gift that I could say no to this big, big, big event where, like I said, who's there. And, I got several texts and calls. Hey, are you going to be there? And I had to say no. And that feeling, it's still, I'm kind of tasting it. I'm loving it. That no tasted so good to me that I'm going to savor in that for a little while. Okay. And what has shifted, you want to ask yourself the question, what has shifted in me since September 7th? That was the lunar eclipse. Okay. What has shifted? in me since September 7th. And then you can go through categories like physically, biology and physiology side, in my own mind, and in my heart center. You can even go through the chakras and ask yourself, what has shifted in my first chakra? How I ground, how I connect with the tribes and people and communities. Maybe that shifted. Second chakra will be how you express your desires and how you connect with your sensuality and how you express yourself through the hips and your pelvic floors and your vaginal areas and who you are in that region of beauty. Okay, what has shifted in that area? What are some of the desires that shifted there? Third chakra. Well, okay. How are you digesting life? How's your self-expressions? How has that changed? Right? The third chakra is that very sun-oriented space. It's very solar. Okay, I just want you to know. Second chakra is a little more lunar, but this third chakra is very solar. So today's solar eclipse was the space of your third chakra. So how is this going to change how you express yourself into the world? And if you experience some digestive issues in this past 2 weeks of gas and bloating, and you cannot digest anything well anymore, and you're like, my appetite is all weird, and you're eating strange things in a strange time, welcome to the eclipse. Yeah, that was exactly what I was experiencing. Yeah, bloating gas. What the heck was that about, Masami? I mean, that digestion was so crazy. Okay, but I can actually sense today, and I'm hopeful that's going to completely shift for me. And my body has already said that to me. That 2 weeks is over now. Okay. You can come back. You can come back to digesting really, really well. So, those are some of the things, right? That's three, right? And you can get into the fourth chakra. Okay. Heart center. Things that I used to care so much and express and reach out and open to people about. What shifted during that 2 weeks? Did you find ways to maybe protect yourself a little bit? Did you find ways to say, I'm going to shield that a little bit? I need to kind of not be so crazy open about that. I think I'm just not going to be that available all the time. Things like that. Okay. Where you are going to open your heart, you have become more selective. So this next 2 weeks, you got to get more clear and say, yep, this area I'm going to be a little bit more open, but this area I need to be more selective about how much I can open up to that. And it's okay. You don't have to be a complete bodhisattva, okay, to be always open. Well, Buddha would probably say you don't always have to be open, okay? And we always think of Buddha with a sitting, closed eyes meditation under a Bodhi tree, right? But you know what? There are a lot more statues. Buddha, sleeping Buddha, okay? Laughing Buddha, okay? Sitting in front of lots of food Buddha, okay? There's a many, 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 many Buddhas. Playing Buddha, kid Buddha, okay? I have a Buddha that's sleeping on the elephant Buddha, okay? It's the cutest thing. So, you know, be many expressions of the Buddha from your heart. Okay. And the throat, as you know, you're finding your voice, how you're going to express your voice, when to speak, when not to speak, when to open your arms, when to receive, and when to give. Okay. The funny thing about this gesture is that both giving and receiving are the same gesture. And sometimes for women, especially perimenopause and upward women, us, we forget that this is a receiving gesture too. Okay. This is not always the giving gesture, right? So sometimes just put your hands out there and say, what is this gesture for me right now? Is this a giving or is this a receiving? Or is it a mixture? Okay. But many of us women, we really need to know that this is also a receiving too. Okay. And you can, that's a beautiful meditation too. You can just close your eyes or you can look at your hands. How often do you actually look at the palms of your hands and just gaze into those and get to know your tendencies? Okay. And another question you can ask yourself is, what am I still resisting during post-eclipse? Okay. What am I still resisting during this next 2 weeks? And another question, this is the third question you can maybe ask, is what areas of my life could use more flow? Okay. During the eclipse season, it's really hard to find flow. So if you felt stuck, if you felt just like compression, you felt like everything was locking up, Well, that's kind of the nature of the eclipses, okay? So now the flow can begin. But don't open that floodgate too quickly and then get washed out, okay? So just slowly open the gate for the next 2 weeks. Okay, it's a time to integrate. I've mentioned that. It's the time to recognize all the things that limit you, okay? From realizing your light or your possibilities or your potential and abilities. And that could be physical things. That could be your liver's congested. That could be your lungs need some support. And we're coming into the fall equinox tomorrow. That means that we need to be addressing your lungs and your large intestine. So this is a really important time to pay attention to massaging your colon. Use sesame oils. Those are great because it's Ayurvedically, it's tridoshic, so it's very balancing. So if you have sesame oil, body sesame oil, you can get it from Banyans. That you could get it from Amazon, or you could go on our website and a recommended resources page. You can see some of those oils we have listed. It's a great way to massage that and get that flow coming back in. And lungs, as you know, hold a lot of emotions. It's not just grief and sadness. Lungs hold anger, rage, frustrations, because they are deeply communicating with your liver's anger too. And so, I've done the lung retreat program that I go much, much deeper, but it also holds greed, okay, and the not enoughness. So we will explore that as we go into October, and I'll mention that more during the supplement coaching call that I will do in the beginning of October, more about the lungs and how to support your lungs. But this is the time that you may experience some of these not enoughness energy starting to come in, and you're going to see tremendous amount of greed, okay? But that's when you need to tap into yourself and how's this mirroring? How is this reflecting? Where's my greed? Where's my sense of I need that? I want that. I deserve that. And that has gone too far. Okay. So a lot of these balancing acts are going to start to come in the next 2 weeks. But slow down. Don't do too much. Chew on all these things. Take time to digest. So this is a great time to not only the lungs and your large intestine, but this is important to support your digestion. So using the betaine hydrochloric acid, supporting your liver, gallbladder. Those are going to be so key to as we go into the equinox and onward. Okay. And after the equinox, we'll talk about, more of the cleanse things first week of the October. That's when you can begin to do your cleanse. You can start, in about a week too, but I would probably give yourself next 2 weeks just to process your eclipse season and then start your fall cleanse after that. So give yourself a little bit of time this time. Okay, don't jump in. And support your sleep, especially postmenopause, but menopause and postmenopausal women, even perimenopausal women. Our sleep gets less and less healing to our system. We don't sleep as deeply. We don't sleep for healing as much anymore. So taking melatonin is, to me, is a very important thing for my body. And obviously, you have to discuss this with your health practitioner. But for me, I use 10 milligrams of melatonin pretty much 5 nights, 5 to 6 nights per week. And one night or so, I just kind of take a break. Okay, but that can be very important because as we go into postmenopause, we produce actually less and less melatonin. And as we go into the full moon, we produce less melatonin too. So keep that in mind in this next 2 weeks, okay? And you may have noticed the vivid dreams in the past 2 weeks, weird dreams. You're like, what the heck was that dream about? Okay. Yeah, that was the eclipse energy really bringing you down to the subconscious. So some of your dreams were very much subconscious oriented. So you can't really sort it out. You don't know what the heck that was about. But for the next 2 weeks, if you have a dream journals or something, you can write it down. Or if you have time in the morning to kind of go over the dreams that you can remember, this will be a good time for the next 2 weeks to do that. And don't overthink what's next. What's my next plan? The new moon is today. So guess what? A lot of the lunar world people in the world are planning, right? They're like, what's the next idea? And then I'm going to put my intentions and what is my next goal? I'm not going to do any of that for this next 2 weeks. I'm just going to process it. I'm going to digest it. I'm going to let it poop out. Okay. Because I just don't need to be doing that for the next 2 weeks because in the full moon, a lot of things are going to get revealed for you. The subconscious decisions you made, subconscious patterns that you worked with, subconscious maybe goals that you didn't even consciously make your mind up for, they're going to come to fruition. They're going to show itself in the full moon. So be surprised, be excited, like wait around. It's like, yay, full moon. I get to see what this is now. Okay. So please, please don't spend your time today and tomorrow writing down all these goals that you're going to have for next. And I'm going to put this intention. It's like, put it aside. None of it matters because that's already been processed. Remember, you've been in the new moon multiple times this month. You've been in that. You just did it in a subconscious level. You did it under the ocean waves. So you didn't even see it. But that's going to come. So it's going to be kind of exciting. Okay, the full moon, I'm very much looking forward to this next full moon. And honor your microbes. Okay, the last 2 weeks, your inner gut microbes, your skin microbes, your vaginal microbes, your brain microbes, they all went through some challenges. Okay, when you felt the stress, microbes felt the stress. And the microbes felt the stress, then the microbes actually told the brain, I'm stressed. Okay, so there's this vicious circle going on. So this is really important, everyone. Start eating fermented foods, start to do some probiotics, do the oral probiotics, you could do vaginal probiotics. All that information is on my website, right? So you could do that, but start to introduce sauerkraut, okay? Summer dill pickles, okay? That you harvested and you made the pickles for. Eat those, okay? Kimchi's. Start eating fermented things. That's going to be really, really important because your microbes went through some stress too, okay? And I have a very low battery on my computer. So I hope this will keep on. But the last thing I wanted to say is trust. Okay. Work on the trust. Faith is one thing, but faith is something you have to practice. Faith is something you have to attend to. And the trust, to me, maybe Chris, you have something to say about trust. But I love this quote, right, I hope I'm saying this person's name correctly, but the Baal Shem Tov, I hope I'm saying that person. But it's this quote that says, let me fall if I must fall. The one I will become will catch me. Let me fall if I must fall. The one I will become will catch me. That's where you're at for the next 2 weeks. And the one that you will become will definitely show its face with the reflection of the full moon. So, I hope you can really allow that to take hold of you, support you. It's like that trust exercise in the 1980s and the 90s. Remember that, right? It's kind of like that. You're letting the Indra's net catch you this time. Yeah, Indra's net it's just in the background right now. Always here, always connected. You just let yourself fall into that. Tonight, when you fall onto your bed and when you put your head on the pillow, trust. Let yourself fall and let who you are becoming catch you. Okay. And, this is kind of one of the Rumi's ideas, but Rumi said, birds make great sky circles of their freedom. Let me read that. Birds make great sky circles of their freedom. How do they learn it? They fall. And falling, they are given wings. Right? The great Sufi, Rumi. By falling, they're given wings. And so in falling, we learn. Okay? In flying, we expand. In falling, we surrender. In flying, we trust. You got to do both. It's that hands opening and closing, opening and closing. Your job is to really get to know yourself in the next 2 weeks, to know that this open palms, do these represent in this moment receiving or giving or both? And then really get to know yourself that way. And I'm going to pass it to Chris and I'm going to go run upstairs and get my cord. And then
Wow.
we'll wrap up.
Well, maybe why don't we just wrap up? Because actually, what you said was perfect to end. I don't think I have anything to add to that. So that was great. And the Baal Shem Tov was a very wise person in the 18th century who saw a lot about the reality of our human nature. And so we can take that as a real authority on what we can find when we trust. So that was very well put. So that's all I have to add to what you said.
Well, let's read a couple of comments that came in. Autumn said, I think I had a good wild card. Ooh, I love that. Let's read. After a lot of ups and downs, trying to find a place to move, I found somewhere affordable and they accepted my offer. Also, the sellers are doing some repairs for free. Fabulous, fabulous, fabulous. Yeah, that was a great wild card, wasn't it? Sharon Marie says, except my cat is looking after herself. Okay, your cat's looking after herself. Is that it? Okay. So you're gonna learn from your cat, I hope. Okay. Masami was my wild card, Mary said, when I had my supplement consultation. So many shifts and changes. Well, thank you. Thank you. We always have fun in our private sessions, don't we? And Aparajita, thank you for the wonderful session. Oh, you're welcome. And I love your photo with a yellow cap on. Love it. Love that. Cute. And the red lipstick. Perfect. Okay. And then Steve says, thank you both for your insights. You're welcome. And Ruplika says, say the name again, please, Chris. Okay. Oh, yeah. Good. So he wrote it there.
It was the Baal Shem Tov. That's the
Yeah.
title of that person.
Yeah. Baal Shem Tov. And let me read that one more time. Are there any things
Nope,
that?
that's the last one.
Okay, so let me read that and then we'll wrap up. Okay, everyone, let's just close your eyes. Put your one hand on your heart and the other on your belly. Really sink into this. Okay, and imagine you have the Indra's net right behind you. Let me fall if I must fall. The one I will become will catch me. Let me fall if I must fall. The one I will become will catch me. That's the trust, everyone. That will catch you. Okay? Trust that. Don't ever let anybody tell you otherwise. Trust that. That's the truth. That's the capital T truth. Thanks for being here, everyone. We got through the 2 weeks and slow down, take slow breaths, be here for you 100%, and really sink in. Taste who you are. It's like you are this gorgeous cup of green tea. You are this gorgeous cup of rooibos tea. You are this gorgeous cup of English breakfast and Earl Grey and so on and so forth. Okay. Really take time. Take time to taste who you are. Smell the scent of who you are. Hear your own voice. Okay. Touch who you are. See who you are. And am I missing any senses?
Well, we
Possible.
could go on, but so
And then
good image too.
really sip on your intuition. Okay. Intuition is your senses too. One of your senses too. Okay. Thank you, everyone. It's an honor to be here with all of you. Namaste. Bye, everyone.